Each day, out of the serene beginnings of morning, nature opens its doors to the inhabitants of one very special island. Fun seekers, watermen, townspeople, and wildlife awake to a burst of activity. It's a workplace and a home for some. A playground and refuge for all. It is summertime on Chincoteague Island, Virginia. Like so many, I first came to Chincoteague as a summer tourist with my family long ago. Of course, there wasn't much to see or do, or so my 10-year-old mind seemed to think, but my father insisted that we come. We shall cleanse our souls from the grime of the city air, he said. Well, reluctantly, I gave up summers playing street hockey with my best friend Sparky and began to explore the island of Chincoteague. Much to my surprise, I discovered an entire world beyond its quiet streets and sleeping houses, a world full of wonderment and adventure. Soon, I too began to see things through a keener eye. Each time I watched a crab boat go out for its daily catch, I'd imagine it to be 100 years before, seeing a heritage passed from father to son, a livelihood gained through hard work. No longer could I gobble an oyster fritter sandwich without remembering my trips through the shucking houses, masters adept with flashing blades, contributing to mountains of salt white shells. I watched intently as the crabbers tended their floats of molting crabs. How fierce they could look, like a warrior dressed in battle armor, yet with a gentle grace, painstakingly shedding its outer shell, emerging twice its former size. Now, a soft delicacy, it would take hours before his protective coat would harden, leaving this soft-shelled crab vulnerable to even his own kind. From then on, I watched the rippling tide of the salty bay with new interest, realizing the existence of another world beneath the water's surface. The watermen of today are just as I remember them my earlier visits, the clam boats leaving before dawn with a crew as salty as the sea. Why, I remember watching them one afternoon unloading the long day's catch of surf clams. I stood fascinated, watching them hoist the huge cages onto the dock, imagining what it would be like to work on the waves of the ocean. "Hey, kid," one of them shouted, "would you like to be a clammer when you grow up?" Howls of laughter followed from the group as they caught me gazing into the horizon, perched atop an empty container about to be loaded aboard the boat. Before I knew it, my father arranged with the captain a day at sea for me. weeks which have passed since my big day at sea, I've gotten to know many of these islanders and their stories. They're a special lot. From the watermen who share in a legacy which has grown since the first settlement in 1671, to the artists and the craftspeople whose work fills the many small gift shops throughout Chincoteague. Like the artisan who carves masterful decoys rivaling any of the mallards, brants, or green-winged teal found in the marsh. And like I, many visitors have found pleasure in obtaining yet another handsome piece for their collection at home. Artists reveal their talents through their respectful eye of beloved island subjects in many ways, even on the side of a barn studio. I remember one old sea captain, and he sure knew how to draw out a tall tale. Why, he was the one who warned me about the famed giant mosquitoes of the marshes, said that they really weren't that big compared to the ones that they carried you off to. Now, there's nothing real fancy on the island. No need for a coat and bow tie. But I'll tell you, there's not a four-star restaurant in New York City that can offer seafood any fresher than Chincoteague's. In fact, there's quite a menu offered by the islanders, from crabs to pizza. Some people would still rather catch their own meal by hook, line, or sinker. I guess you might say that seafood is somewhat popular on the island. In fact, the eating of the famous salty Chincoteague oysters has evolved into an event, the Oyster Festival. And if you love them as I do, it's an affair not to be missed. And it would seem not many do. Raw, steamed, fried, frittered, it's a celebration of the season and its bounty, the oyster. I've always found the island to be quite accommodating. Of course, you won't find high-rise resort hotels lining the beach or oceanfront discos. But you will find plenty of peace and quiet, with every effort made to give you a feeling of being away from it all. After all, you don't come here for room service, hot tubs, vibrating beds. Some motels are aptly named, with secluded rooms overlooking a view of Loblolly Pines and perhaps in sight of the Assateague lighthouse, and certainly within a quick walk to a refreshing pool. If you're a lover of sleeping under the stars by way of a camper or a tent, you've come to the right place. Sites sheltered by whispering pines are air-conditioned with the salty breeze of the ocean. Dining tables are provided with a pleasant view of the marshes, while a backyard playground serves as an interlude between activities. Now, we always stayed in the tourist homes when I was young, much like Miss Molly's. Of course, they call them bed and breakfast inns now, but they still have the same warmth and charm as I remember. A nice, friendly change from the city. As for activities, Chincoteague provides a gateway to one of the most beautiful barrier islands on the East Coast, Assateague, home of the famous Chincoteague ponies. Birdwatchers and lovers of nature find their haven within the Chincoteague Wildlife Refuge. The most famous part of this kingdom in the wild is the Chincoteague pony, and he is the star of Chincoteague Island's biggest celebration, the pony penny. People from all over the country begin gathering early in anticipation of this great event. Finally, in the distance, the herded ponies appear crossing the horse marsh on Assateague. The Chincoteague cowboys follow close behind, shouting and cracking their whips in the air to drive the ponies toward the channel. Into the water they go as shouts are heard from the crowd. The swim to Chincoteague Island has begun. Once ashore, the ponies are driven through the main street, and then finally to the big corral where they are auctioned the following day. But the many who are not sold on auction day make the swim back across to their home, free to roam in the wilds of their beloved Assateague. Not much has changed on this beautiful island since I was a boy. The shores are just as I remember. Long, empty stretches of beach washed clean each morning by the glistening surf. A bird enjoying a first strut on the beach. Children laughing in their first splash of the day. Ample room for sunbathers to bask, while others pass the time with the reflective sport of surf fishing. I think back to my father's words of cleansing our souls each time I smell the sea's sweet perfume, or hear the pulsating lift of the waves as I watch them crisscross into submission against the sand. I am removed to a private place, one familiar to all those who will listen, smell, and see the ocean's tresses as I do. I am Chincoteague. I've now traveled the world as a tourist and an artist through many exotic reaches. But the canvas of my mind paints its most precious memory with the seaside wilderness of Chincoteague and Assateague. I've been exploring the seaside wilderness of Assateague and Chincoteague since I was a boy. Memories of sun-drenched beaches are shared by most who visit. But let me tell you where the key to a real castle can be found. But only if you look very, very carefully. Every season holds an artist's treasure. The winter's icy air brings flocks of wildfowl from a colder north to feed upon the ponds and the marshes of the island's landward side. Each flight of a bird or a lonely guard on an icy floe is a painting to me, cool pastels on a frozen canvas. Then a sudden burst of sky brings the rush of spring. Still waters thaw to a ripple of soft lights. In its search for food, a fast-flying skimmer plows through the waters and strikes at a choice morsel with his razor-like bill, swallowing in mid-flight, then only to circle and dive playfully once again for another fish drawn to his wake. Nothing blends so well with the rhythm of nature as a mute swan, gracefully arching her slender neck, her wings held high in perfect harmony. She is one with the waters. The air's warmth brings new life to those who slept in winter's chill. As in morning, nature's eyes open as I focus on its otherwise elusive detail. I tell you, many a muskrat I had chanced to see swimming about, making channels in the matted marsh grass, and all the while providing the wildfowl with new forage, allowing them access to the seeds, the tender shoots, the small insects, and the crustaceans they prefer to eat. One of the most gracious of birds, I think, is that of the whistling swan. Not all choose to migrate north in the spring. Some prefer to stay behind to mate among the reeds of Assateague or the Chincoteague preserve. They remain close together throughout their nesting period, each taking a turn to warm their unborn brood, permitting the other to rest and nourish himself on the tasty morsels of the marsh. Through my many walks, I've sometimes happened across this miracle of nature. How very simple their life seems, filled with mutual loyalty and contentment. The wildlife abounds in the warmer months of the refuge as I watch the many dances to the music of her shores. Even new friends are made, such as this one between a legendary Chincoteague pony and a cattle egret by its side. As the early evening air grows cooler with the onset of fall, the Earth's heat from the midday sun turns to fog. But in this, I see nothing more tranquil a sight than to watch the peaceful grazing of the wild ponies of Assateague hidden in the autumn mist, enjoying perhaps the last vestiges of summer's delicacies. The migratory birds return in great numbers from the north to feed upon the wetlands replenished by summer's growth. As the waterman begins his long day's journey into labor, his colors are washed by languid pools and salted air. Others still enjoy the last few warm days of an Indian summer before the chill of winter begins again. My memories of the shores of Assateague and the Chincoteague Wildlife Preserve are abundant with a sense of knowing nature at her fullest and certainly most enduring state. At day's end, the blue tones of winter's beginning turn to a luscious golden hue, a painter's palette of sun. At the end of my mind's journey, my inspiration turns to my canvas. The haunting songs and muted colors of Assateague return in yet another form as the memories of her shores and waters remind me that her beauty belongs to no man. Tell me, have you seen the key to her castle?